I think the most satisfying issue has been the fact that we've re-engaged Conservatives in what was Calgary West and is now going to be Signal Hill going forward. We've sold some 3,000 memberships in about a 2-month period. Many folks who had sort of put down their tools in terms of their involvement with the federal party because they were unhappy with the current representative. And so just getting that re-engagement to me has been the most satisfying.
Well, I think it's taxes. Like for most people, it's are their taxes going to go up, are their taxes going to go down? My track record has been to lower taxes. I've cut taxes 160 times. I probably put forward the most comprehensive letter to the finance minister every year with further cost savings for the government. I hope that at the end of this budget process, going into the next election, we'll have maybe $12.5 billion to go ahead and put toward tax cuts. So there's a debate about whether or not it's going to be income splitting for families, or whether or not it's going to be a reduction in the GST, or whether or not it's going to be a capital gains tax reduction, or whether or not we're going to take the rates of income tax and get rid of 2 of them. So it's instead of 4 rates of progressive tax, it's down to 2. There's all these tax options on the table, which I think are great for the election moving forward. Mr. Liepert, on the flip side, has talked about a provincial sales tax and getting rid of Ralph Klein's flat rate of tax of 10%, going back to a more progressive situation, and also a gasoline tax of 5 cents a litre. Well, I want to end some waste in government. I want to cut taxes. I want to get tough on crime. We've already done a number of things on crime, but I'll give you an example, my private member's bill. What we want to do is create a mandatory minimum for rapists. Right now they get 3 years and they walk in 2. I want to make it so that on a first offense they get 8 years, and on every subsequent offense they get 10 years. So if there's 3 convictions, and many of these people are repeat offenders, then they would get 8 plus 10 plus 10 for a total of 28 years, whereas right now they can serve it concurrently and get sentenced to 3 and walk in 2. 98% of all convictions involving sexual assault are just sexual assault. Okay, 2% to get processed in a sense as aggravated sexual assault, but over 60%, 62% of the survivors have evidence of bleeding or bruising. And so they should be prosecuted as aggravated sexual assault, but they get plea bargained down. So I want to create a whole new tier, and we have DNA evidence and all these types of things available to us that weren't available in 1983. And I think it's going to mean that perpetrators spend longer time behind bars. It's going to encourage them to get rehabilitation, because, these people need more than 2 years of rehab if they're a rapist. And I want to see them get that. And I also want to protect the victims or the survivors.
Well, we're certainly taking it one step at a time, and I'm not looking too far beyond Saturday when the nomination vote is held. I don't believe in assuming that anything is a given. That being said, what I have committed to folks that if we're successful on Saturday is that we will start to see a new era of engagement, listening to constituents, and then reflecting constituents' views at the caucus level federally. And I would clearly want to hold up to that commitment. There hasn't been an open nomination since 2004 in this part of the city. Many people have felt as though they were almost disenfranchised because election after election they had to vote for the same candidate. So I think the outcome, and now everyone has had the opportunity to participate, so regardless of what the results are on Saturday, everyone has to accept those results, because if you wanted to be part of the process, you could have been. I think the outcome will be a satisfied electorate that the candidate in the next federal election for the Conservative Party will be the one that was chosen by the people.
Well, it's whether or not the Redford Tories or the Harper Tories win, right? I'm a Harper Tory. I've known the Prime Minister for 24 years, since I was first a student at the University of Calgary back in 1990, and supported the Reform Party and got active on his campaigns and what have you. So this is a big battle between the Reds and the Blues, and I think that frankly, people support the Prime Minister and they want to see somebody who supports him in turn. Obviously it's a big long-term battle between the Reds and the Blues. This went on between Mr. Harper and Mr. Hawkes. It went on between Joe Clark and Mr. Mulrooney. It now carries on. You know, I was between myself and Miss Redford when Ron Liepert was her campaign manager in 2004. Now it's between myself and Ron. And I think the Red Tories are a rump with inside the party. They sign up hundreds of New Democrats and Liberals in order to try to pull off these wins, and we have evidence of that. And you know, it's a battle for the soul of the party, and where we're going to go here, where we're going to go forward.
I'm looking at it from the standpoint of if I'm successful on Saturday, and I believe that I will be. I'm prepared to re-engage those who felt like the incumbent was their choice. But you know, at the end of the day, democracy will prevail, and if we're successful and successful with a very nice endorsement, then it's up to those folks who have felt for some period of time that they wanted to keep this nomination rather secretive and hopeful that no one would pay attention and thereby challenge the incumbent. So we'll deal with that after the nomination, and it'll be what it'll be. First of all, I'm quite proud of the 8 years that I served as an MLA in Calgary West and number of cabinet positions. I'm a big believer that when you go into public office, it shouldn't be for a long period of time. It should be for a short period of time. You go in and try and accomplish some things. Anytime you do stuff, you're going to make some people happy and some unhappy. So I accept some of the criticism if it's valid criticism. What we've seen in this campaign, though, quite frankly, hasn't been valid. It's been fear tactics. It's been desperation, in my view, and I think is reflective on the fact that the incumbent knows he's in a pile of trouble.
Well, you know, the people who attack me, for the most part, are actually Liberals and New Democrats and, you know, people who don't share our philosophy. I don't think that anybody disputes I'm a tax cutter. I don't think that anybody disputes I'm a conservative. I don't think that anybody disputes that I'm tough on crime, right? But there are those out there that like to pay taxes, and I've met some of them in this campaign. People who signed up that are actually New Democrats or Liberals who've said that they actually support higher taxes. Well, if you like higher taxes, then yeah, you know, you don't like Rob Anders.